Give him a call. Tell me about now. Here's somebody with the. You give us what the European perspective might be about this current situation with the governor in New York State. Would people care about it? Would they be outraged the way Americans are?
We do like a sex scandal if we can get one,
yeah.
but usually in England there's something else has to. It's just the one thing like that isn't. It has to have a turkey involved or a diaper or, you know, it gets a lot, England likes it a lot. Our judges, you know, tend to dress up as babies and like get hit with a wooden spoon.
Oh, really?
And, you know, yeah.
Why is that?
I don't know.
What's that all about?
I don't know. Is it like a Masons thing or something?
I don't know. I don't know. I was lucky to come up with the Lions Club. I don't know about the Masons. It would have been this, and people would have been outraged, or not so much, but to really get their attention, it had to be more than what we have here now.
They would have researched it heavily and found a diaper in there somewhere. Mm-hmm. I know it.
Yeah.
Oh, excellently put, I felt. Who's your next witness? Move this thing along. I've got a very important lunch.
My lord, my next witness is my star witness, who should crack this case wide open. Now, this poor boy here, has no parents, as they murdered each other in a lover's argument. Could you tell us what the argument was about, little Billy?
It was all about you. It was about you coming in between them, the way you did.
Well, it was one of those nights.
I think you'd been drinking. I smelt drunk man's drink on your breath.
I suggest you withdraw that.
All right, you would.
No. This, as we all know, is the late Freddie Johnson.
Oh, no, it isn't. Oh, yes, it is. I'm just fresh from Panto. What do you want to know? Look at that.
Oh, splendid witness. Ask him to do the pussy joke, would you?
I think not, my lord. Will you raise your right?
I want to do the pussy joke.
No, you can't do the pussy joke.
All right.
Raise your right hand. Raise your left hand.
Fair enough, I've heard more than enough. You've outlined the case very well.
Thank you, my lord.
I have no choice but to find the person guilty because they're obviously not a Mason.
Well, let's end on that.
Why was the cat domesticated? What was her purpose? In ancient Egypt, a man would be buried alive for harming the sacred cat. Yet how many times is the cat mentioned in the Bible of the Hebrews, the slaves of Egypt? None. What is this cat's name? What is she called?
Her name's Lucky.
I don't think so. Cats became the nemesis of the Holy Mother Church. But did the cult of the cat die? No, it was carried on by the Rosicrucians and Scottish Rite Masonry into medieval Hermetic tradition. The cats were still persecuted by the Catholics. They were burnt in mass heaps. People were put to death for association. Burnt to death in public squares on St. John's Day. That's what it was up to the 18th century in France.
Not available.
In retaliation, the cat allowed the rat to run free in Europe during the Black Plague. It's interesting. On the orders of Louis XIV, the species was practically obliterated. But now the tide has turned. The cat is everywhere. In our homes, everywhere. Sleeping at our feet. Why? Have you asked yourself? Are they waiting for something? What are they waiting for?
Whether it's a dollar bill or a lost winter glove, finding something on the cold cement of a parking garage floor isn't likely to change your day all that much. Still, every now and then a seemingly worthless item can turn into something so much more. Just ask Garrett Graff. A historian and political author, Graff didn't think much of the item one of his work colleagues found on the floor of a parking garage. But upon a closer inspection, he saw something on the object that piqued his journalistic curiosity. What followed was a life-changing, multi-year hunt into some of America's most deeply buried secrets. Political writer Garrett Graff covered a lot of hot-button issues in his lifetime, from the War on Terror to the 2008 U.S. presidential election. But perhaps his most eye-opening research started when his friend handed him something peculiar. It was a government ID for someone from the intelligence community. Graff told NPR, and he gave it to me since I write about that subject. And he's like, I figure you can get this back to this guy. The friend, he noted, had found the ID on a parking garage floor. Right away, Graf noticed something peculiar about the ID. Step-by-step driving instructions covered the back of it, so Graf, inquisitive journalist that he was, used Google Maps to locate the directions and destination, and the results surprised him. The directions led him to a mountain peak just over 70 miles outside of Washington, D.C. There, at a peak known as Raven's Rock, the road just ended. It led to the face of the mountain and then nothing. Graf recalled everything else he saw once he made the trip out there. "You can see very clearly these big concrete bunker doors," he said, "this little guard shack, chain link fence, and then this set of concrete bunker doors beyond. What had he just found?" "It was a facility that I'd never heard of that wasn't on any map," Graf elaborated. His inner historian and journalist totally freaked out. He started researching what he'd found as soon as he could. He didn't know it when he first stumbled upon the structure, but the directions had led him to Raven Rock Mountain Complex, also known as Site R. Put more bluntly, he found a nuclear fallout shelter. Graf's research turned up plenty of information on the United States government's nuclear war contingency plan, some of it comforting, some of it horrifying, and all of it fascinating. For example, the Truman administration sanctioned construction of the bunker in 1951 once the Cold War with the Soviet Union started warming up. They used a construction team who'd carved out New York City subway tunnels to do the job. So how'd they keep it a secret? Laborer Gene Bowman, who was paid $1.35 an hour in 1951 to bore through the granite of Raven Rock, put it this way: "They just said they were building a tunnel. Wasn't nobody interested in what they were doing. Once dug, however, it didn't look like a simple tunnel." In this interview with NPR, Graf described the Raven Rock complex as a freestanding city built inside of this mountain, intended as a backup Pentagon. Site R boasted two 34-ton blast doors capable of thwarting nuclear bomb blasts. Beyond the blast doors and inside the heart of the rock, 100,000 feet of office provided all the room military officials would need to operate. Infirmaries, cafeterias, and utility areas allowed for up to 1,400 of America's VIPs to live somewhat comfortably, with a catch. With the president, his or her cabinet, officials, and military personnel inhabiting the bunker, there was no room for spouses. This led to a famous exchange between then Supreme Court Justice Earl Warren and another official. Handed an ID badge for access to Raven Rock, Justice Warren realized there wasn't one for his wife. When told she wouldn't be allowed in, the justice handed back the ID and said, "You'll have room for one more important official." Believe it or not, Raven Rock wasn't just a place for the elite and powerful to hobnob as the world around them fell apart. As Graf discovered, officials set up very specific operation plans for every federal branch, even the IRS and the post office. Yup, even in case of nuclear destruction, the government wasn't going to let people off the tax hook so easily. The IRS had a post-bomb plan that covered how appropriately to tax damaged, rather vaporized, property. And where would people get money to pay taxes in an apocalyptic society? Uncle Sam had a plan for that too. Officials stashed away publicly scorned $2 bills in another bomb shelter to redistribute as currency. Other federal departments had assigned duties as well. The Parks Department would set up refugee camps, the Department of Agriculture would divvy up rations, and the Post Office was charged with finding out who died in the blast. At time during the Cold War, a nuclear attack felt so imminent that Raven Rock had been fully manned and operated 24 hours per day, up until 1992. Operations were picked up and modernized once more after the September 11th attacks in 2001. They again run 24/7. Though the ID card Graf received listed directions to only one secret bunker, his research uncovered half a dozen or so other doomsday shelters, like one beneath the Greenbrier Resort in West Virginia here, each more or less the same in function and design. In Cheyenne Mountain near Colorado Springs lie another hidden doomsday bunker. Like Raven Rock, the complex was built in the 1950s and served as the command post responsible for defending both Canada and the US from air attacks, Graf said. Cheyenne Mountain had reservoirs of water and fuel, doctors' offices, gyms, and even a Subway sandwich joint. So in the event of a nuclear attack, whoever was working the cash register at the time earned a spot among the surviving elite. Through all of his research, though, Graff learned something unsettling. If you're trying to preserve and restart the government after an attack, he explained to NPR, it becomes this very existential question about what is America? As far as Graff could tell, the bunkers provided a disturbing answer. The civilian population will be left to itself for weeks or months at a time, he said, and a small number of senior government officials will be spirited out to these bunkers. In other words, the government's plot to rebuild post-nuclear war America didn't really include the people. Preserving artifacts in the system of government took precedent, but in a time of chaos, what else could be done? Graff dove deeper into his findings in a book he titled Raven Rock, the study of the U.S. government's secret plan to save itself, while the rest of us die. To think his journey into some of the country's biggest secrets started with just a lost ID badge. Though these government bomb shelters aren't so secret anymore in an age of satellite maps and information leaks, Graff still stumbled into a fascinating, if not worrisome, find.
It appears as though something has happened in the motorcade route.
November 22nd, 1963. President John F. Kennedy is gunned down in Dallas. A crushing blow to the country and a personal affront to FBI agent Don Adams.
Oh, it shocked me. It devastated me. And I thought to myself, what did I do wrong?
Adams is retired, but still can't shake the assassination or investigation by the Warren Commission.
Nothing but a bunch of liars.
The Warren Commission determined that Lee Harvey Oswald fired the fatal shots from the Texas Book Depository. But Adams says the real person behind the plot isn't even mentioned in their report.
I know for a fact in my heart that these things happened.
Based on his service with the FBI and years researching National Archives, Don Adams says at best the Kennedy assassination is a massive failure to communicate between federal agencies and then cover up. At worst, it's conspiracy to commit murder.
It's embarrassing because I love the FBI. It's a great organization, best law enforcement agency in the business. But we also have to face facts and reality that there are bad people in this world.
The Army War veteran joined the agency in 1962. He was assigned to Thomasville, Georgia, where he began investigating Joseph Miltier, a name unfamiliar to many, but not the government.
He was reported to be one of the most violent men in the country.
A militant activist with ties to hate groups like the KKK. November 1963, an FBI informant named William Somerset said Miltier was threatening JFK.
Saying bad things about what they wanted to do to Kennedy.
Miltier frequently discussed assassinating President Kennedy. A threat was even captured on tape by Miami intelligence officers November 9th, 1963, just weeks before Dallas. Miltier is talking to Somerset.
Well, how the hell do you do the best way would be coming off the building with a high mark rifle? And they're going to really try to kill him.
He describes smuggling a gun into the building.
All those guns come out behind you and take them apart. Boy, if that Kennedy gets shot, we got to know where we at. They'll pick up somebody within hours after. Throw the public off.
It should have stopped the president from traveling instantly.
It didn't, and November 22nd, Miltier is photographed near the motorcade moments before the assassination.
They messed up, and all the other agencies messed up.
Is there any way Lee Harvey Oswald could have killed John F. Kennedy?
No. Had nothing to do with it.
Don says evidence he saw while stationed in Dallas proves it, beginning with the Zapruder film.
And all of a sudden I saw the president go like this with his hands. And I said, hell, I said, he was shot in the throat. The agent said to me, Don, be careful what you say. And there were no shots from the front.
But Don says this photo shows a bullet hole through the windshield.
The very first thing that the doctor said was, hell, he was shot in the throat. That's a bullet hole. The minute that you have a frontal shot, Oswald can't be the shooter because this came from the grassy knoll. And Oswald was in Texas School Book Depository.
The Warren Commission ruled that 3 shots were fired, but Don counted 11. And at the book depository, he wondered how Oswald did that in 7.5 seconds from a bolt-action rifle.
because I was in Korea and I know what I'm talking about.
He also says, unbeknownst to many people, another weapon seen here was also recovered.
The first weapon they found in the building was a Mauser, and nobody ever discussed that.
Witnesses reported Oswald was in the lunchroom 4 floors down on the opposite side of the building drinking a Coke after the first shot.
No heavy perspiration or heavy breathing or anything. Couldn't have been done. It was impossible.
Afterward, while Oswald was arrested, Miltier was, quote, jubilant, bragging to Somerset, "You thought I was kidding when I said he would be killed from a window with a high-powered rifle." He told sources in the KKK, "Don't worry about Oswald. He doesn't know anything."
All this stuff bothers me.
Upsetting to many people. In 1976, the U.S. House of Representatives Select Committee on Assassinations was established. They determined a shot was fired from the grassy knoll and in summary believed, quote, on the basis of evidence available, President Kennedy was probably assassinated as a result of a conspiracy, though they were unable to identify the other gunmen. Was Joseph Miltier involved or someone else? Don thinks time will tell, but it's also running out.
I mean, when we die off, when we're gone, there's not going to be anybody who's going to sit here and tell you these things. I hope the truth gets told, whatever it is.
Suzanne Stratford, Fox 8 News.